All right, it's 10 CET, so I think it's time to start. So once again, good morning everyone and welcome to this Mobility in Times of Corona webinar arranged by Interreg Baltic Sea Region project HUPMOBILE. We're pleased to have you all here, and today we have a very interesting and topical day and theme. I'm Tero Hahtela, researcher at Aalto University and project manager of the HUPMOBILE project. Due to this COVID-19, we are not allowed to have physical meetings, and currently we would have otherwise been in Hamburg, Germany, and have our project meeting there. However, instead of that, Hamburg decided, and especially the borough of Altona, to arrange a 2-day event with 2 different webinars. And today the topic is mobility in times of Corona. The keynote speech today will be given by Dr. Angela Franke from University of Dresden. She's designed and conducted a national-wide survey on the influence on the restrictions due to the coronavirus on mobility behavior. So she's one who definitely knows currently what is happening in Germany and elsewhere, and that is something that we are all interested in. And after that keynote speech, we will have discussions together, and we'll divide it to the breakout rooms and discuss what has happened in your cities and how this corona has affected your life that way. But before going there, I'll just tell you briefly a few words about our HUPMOBILE project. So I'll share my screen. So HUPMOBILE project comes from the word holistic urban and peri-urban mobility. This is a project in the Interreg Baltic Sea region's 3rd call for proposals in innovation, natural resources and sustainable transport. The project started in the beginning of last year, and this will end at the end of next year, so December 2021. The total budget of our project is approximately 2 million euros, of which the European Regional Development funding is 1.5 million euros. And as we all know, this is an Interreg project, so this is about learning together, transferring knowledge, and increasing capabilities in sustainable holistic urban mobility by cooperation of the Baltic cities. And this EU Interreg policy learning program for public authorities for information on funding opportunities to find project partners and exchange your experience with other cities. So this is a good platform for cities and public authorities for interregional cooperation, because we have very similar problems around the Baltic Sea cities, and we can definitely learn and take advantage of each other's knowledge. Here you can see also our participants. The key partners are, of course, the cities, Turku, Hamburg, Tallinn, and Riga. And then there are research and facilitating partners, Aalto University, Royal Institute of Technology, Union of the Baltic Cities, Sustainable Cities Commission, and ITL Digital Labs Estonia. Our project has a holistic approach, and we have different themes that we are linked together. For example, improving the production logistics and urban logistics. Then taking into account the needs of residents and mobility management via participatory planning tools and other methods and stakeholder approaches. Also, we take into account the benefits of the new technology. We have, for example, one theme of potential intelligent transport system solutions and supporting mini pilots, meaning that in every city we will also in practice try some new technology and take the lessons learned from elsewhere then to other cities to make development further. And then we also have a theme of multimodality and urban transport. Sorry, just Dennis, I have to in the middle say that there's one annotation request to share content. Should I now say decline, unfortunately, this one, or whether Farahin, you would definitely like to share something right now? I'll decline it right now, but then you can later on, if you want, you can share again. So that was all from the project, and now I give the floor to Heike and the city of Hamburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tero, and a warm welcome from my side. My name is Heike Bunte. I'm here responsible for the HUPMOBILE work packages in the borough of Altona. Yes, thank you. So we have some, all right. Actually, welcome to Hamburg Altona. And as you might know, Hamburg, of course, is quite a big city, and Hamburg Altona is in the most western part of the city. And the advantage and the very excellent position of this district is really that we challenge huge diversity, a big population in times of the space. And of course, this causes also a lot of traffic and sustainable transport challenges. Next slide, please. As you can see from the pictures, as I said, Altona is very diverse. We have old architectural buildings, also a huge train station in the middle of the borough, and last but not least, the River Elbe is always a kind of bottleneck where we have to find solutions to bring commuters on the other side. Nighttime traffic and nighttime mobility is also a big issue in this city, and especially in Altona as well. So actually, we also need to care about public transport and mobility 24 hours a day. Apart from that, next slide, please. We do profit a lot from these European projects as well. This is our district office, our main area where we think about corporations, where we think about how to get these regions together, and of course, not only on the local level, but also on the national and on the international level. We think that European projects are really a good experience for us because we can learn a lot from other cities as well. And this is why we also would like to appreciate the second day of the HUPMOBILE conference, because some of you might have participated already yesterday, where we discussed options and solutions and chances for fusion mobility. So we talked about sustainable mobility options on a broader level, on a strategic overall level. Today, we focus on a certain aspect of mobility, and especially here in Hamburg, many things happened during the pandemic time, and it still happens. So actually, all the projects we have here on the European level deal with these aspects. And of course, I know in your cities, it's probably the same. Next slide, please. So Dr. Angela Franke from the Technical University of Dresden will speak to us. Tero already mentioned it. And I'm really proud that we have the city of Dresden more or less also next to the River Elbe. So that is one common thing we share. And I'm very happy that Angela is our keynote speaker today. Next slide, please. So next one, sorry. So I wish us all a fruitful discussion today. Hopefully we will have a good communication, that the technology will be fine. I would like to draw the attention on the chat function. Should be on the right-hand side of your computer. Please, as participants, use the chat, ask questions, participate, and otherwise it's really difficult to get ideas and arguments together. Also, when we go into the breakout rooms later on, Tero already mentioned it, here we also have the possibilities to exchange and to discuss the current topic from today. So please use it. Try to ask as many questions as you can, because we rely on your experiences as well. So thank you very much. I will give now the floor to Angela. She should be there already. Thank you.
Thank you, Heike, for this very warm welcome. I will share my screen now. You should see it now, yes? Okay, is it working?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, also welcome from my side. I'm very happy to be here today and to talk to you about, I think, a very recent and very important and a kind of very global topic, mobility in times of Corona. Just a few words about my background. I'm Angela Franke. I'm a senior researcher at the Technical University of Dresden. So I can send my greetings to the twin city of Hamburg. Dresden and Hamburg are twin cities down the river. And my background is in transportation economics. And since 5 years, actually, I'm doing research in active mobility and how to increase cycling mostly. So this is like my background, and I'm really into active mobility. I did my PhD on pricing schemes in cities. So this is also something maybe which even interlinks with this topic. And as you notice, so my background was psychology and economy. So it's kind of behavioral economics, which are working here and which I'm also very glad to discuss, if you like. So let's start. And I'm really happy to give you a few ideas, few overviews, a few numbers of the last months, what happened in terms of mobility and mobility change. If you think about the last weeks and months, maybe about March and April when it started, and you close your eyes, I don't know what comes up to your mind. What are the pictures? Do you maybe still remember like waking up to the sound of birds instead of the sound of cars if you're living on a road close by? Do you have this feeling when you were walking in the middle of a street as a pedestrian and you could take over this room? So I think these last months during the pandemic were a very new situation for all of us. And personally, I will never forget the first week of the lockdown when it all started, this very special situation, the quietness which was outside. You could hear something, yeah? And I think we had this very feeling of experiencing something very special for all of us. And you can see in the pictures, yeah, this very empty streets in the middle of Berlin, or this people wearing masks now on the streets, or being separated from each other, not walking in close to each other. So this is all something which feels very normal. If I'm watching some TV series from last year and I'm seeing everyone wearing no mask or on the street I'm like, whoa, yeah, it's already getting got like a second nature, yeah, to wear your mask and to be aware. And I think it was kind of an easy transition also. But we will see if also the changes we had during Corona, I will talk about this in a minute, are long term, or if this is something we actually only had during this pandemic. during these weeks and months, I don't know if you've noticed, but science and journalism became very outstanding. Yeah, they got a new role. Yeah, the ones who were scientists, and they would give the best forecast for the virus. Or every scientist, I think, who was working with Corona had so much new communication to do now. And if we look at the numbers which were like taken in these weeks and months, it was really something new. Many scientists are also working in this field. For example, we have motion tech here, which gives an overview, and you can see that the number of people being mobile decreased significantly with the start of the lockdown, which was the last week of March. And you can see it's even lower at the weekends, which is, it could be like 10 different slides now, yeah, giving you this overview numbers and all from all different angles. People were now looking, and everyone was astonished what happened and what could happen. This is, for example, a graph from Switzerland, from the ETH in Zurich, and they also have this very super, like really visible increase in cycling, but also in walking. And you can see that after it reduced, then the car drive, the green line, slowly the car like got back in, and was again increasing, which we can think about if this is needed, if maybe people have a long-term effect and maybe start to rethink if they need a second car, for example. So all of this in mind, at the very last lunch I had in the university, like with the normal people, everyone from our department on the last week before the lockdown, I was having this feeling of something is going on. Yeah, we saw it coming from the east, and I knew something is coming up, and I tried to convince two of my colleagues that we need to do something. Without any funding, we need to have numbers and how mobility behavior might change without knowing what's going on or what might happen, without even having the terms, or without knowing that there might be a mask wearing or something called lockdown. Yeah, it was all in this feeling of maybe only a scientist can feel, yeah, that there's something going on. So the motivation was that there might be some choice, the mode choice in transportation, and normally this depends on routines, on habits. So you don't think about in the morning anymore. Yeah, if the weather is nice, you maybe take your bike. If it's maybe raining, you know the bus is at 8:10, and you will hop on the bus and go to work. Or you know, yeah, you have your kids at a certain time, they need to be in school. Yeah, it's all a routine. Yeah, and this is something very highly habituated. So you're not thinking about this anymore. And of course, if there's a car in front of the door, this might be the choice you are like always doing, because this is something you're used to it, and the car is your default option because it's there and it's so comfortable. Yeah, so which is also a bad thing, yeah, if you think in terms of sustainable mobility, but it's very human, yeah, to have this kind of very habituated behavior. Now the corona, when it started to have the restrictions, yeah, to be safer, yeah, in terms of the coronavirus being like closer around, and to reduce the numbers of infections, there was a kind of disruptive element now in the life. Yeah, there was a change, and this gave the opportunity to investigate such a process. Yeah, if this is something, kind of an intervention. Yeah, and the question is, this change has a long-lasting effect, or if this is something which is only happened during Corona. Well, now we have the second wave, yeah, and we can even now compare between first and second wave, and how do people shape also their mobility behavior in this transition, and which means of transportations are particularly used during a Corona pandemic, or if you upscale this during any disruptive situation, maybe which is in a city or in total in general in a country. So this also open up research questions or ideas and what needs a city to be resilient and still having the sustainable mobility as a default option, even in these hard times of such sudden changes. So we do have very many needs. Yeah, we can fulfill many of them at home, but many we cannot. Yeah, we needed to go. We needed to leave the house, and we especially noticed during this time that we needed to be mobile also. Yeah, maybe you changed your behavior and only went once per week to the groceries, but it's kind of something which was changed. So with night shifts and weekend work, like right at the beginning of the lockdown in Germany, my colleagues Lisa Marie Schäfer, Juliane Anke, and me, we had the survey out. And what influence does the coronavirus have on your mobility behavior? And it was the first survey at its kind. And we were flooded also by international researchers telling us we wanted to do the same. So we actually translated it in several languages and also worked especially together with the University of Brasilia, translated it in Portuguese and Spanish, and it's still like was going there until just recently. And we had it open in Germany till the mid of May and wanted to know about current restrictions. We wanted to know about mobility and also attitudes towards certain modes of mobility. We wanted to know what's their behavior during the outbreak, but also to have a comparison. We needed to know what was your behavior before the outbreak, and also had a kind of look in the future, what the people think they would keep as kind of their behavior, or what if they would go back to normal afterwards. We were kind of overwhelmed with the resonance. We had 5,000 participants in Germany. We're having around 600 also in Brazil, and we also want to compare internationally, of course. We have kind of an even gender distribution, and we have more younger females participators and more older males participating. Maybe it's the interest in the topic, but it's quite because also of the huge survey sample. It really gives a good picture, especially for the German mobility within this first wave of the coronavirus. And it's like nationwide, and we can also compare for certain areas. So I was also asked from several federal states or from cities to give them like results for only their area. So we could also do this. If we look, because I said, yeah, what kind of restrictions were there? And you can see that only like less than 1% were not having any restrictions. So it was like schools were closed and non-essential businesses were closed. The reduction of social contacts, so-called social distancing, yeah, also a new term which wasn't there before. And also we had people who voluntarily self-isolated. Even now they are like isolating the last 6 months because they are kind of very scared. Also we had curfew in some areas and the prohibition of meetings with above than 5 people or 10 people. It always also changed depending on the area in Germany. I don't know how it was in your areas or how you felt. I think there was still a quite difference also in the behavior or in the behavior change depending if you had children in your house or not. If there was like suddenly homeschooling and maybe everything like changed, I think, for these families. And if you compare this for people without children, I think they had less change in this sense. For the majority of the people, like more than 50%, when they filled in our survey, the restriction had existed for 1 to 3 weeks. And so it gives us a good comparison also within the survey, because different federal states started differently with different sorts of restrictions. I don't know if Germany was there a special case, or if in your country it was kind of also a very regional thing. if we now have like a first look at the data, it might not surprise you that nearly 60% changed their transport, their mode of transport, and their mobility behavior since the corona outbreak had started. And the strongest effects were on the public transportation use, on cycling and on walking. So for the long distance transport, it was like used less. The trains were quite empty. And for, I think the opposite picture emerged for cycling and walking. And you could see so many people walking on cycling on the road. I think I've never seen before. But of course, it was also like in favor of the season. It was spring season, and April was very surprisingly warm and dry this year. But this is also an effect which supported this movement, and I think also helped to reduce the spread of the coronavirus, especially in the first wave. Germany really went quite good through this months. And we also have that like nearly all of the participants in this service reported that at least one of their usual route was omitted, so that more or less they had to change their daily life, and it was due to home office, which is, I think, maybe also a bubble we are in, which is mostly for the high income households, but also which was really apparent, the avoidance of any leisure or recreational trips. So this was something which really the overwhelming majority of all respondents reported, no excursions anymore, no visits and so on. But on the other side, also people started to work and cycling for recreation because they were in-house all day and they wanted to move, they wanted to do something. To compare again the modal split before and during the corona restrictions, you can see that public transportation has the greatest loss, and the people they kind of changed to use the car to cycling and walking from public transportation. We have walking and cycling, they have the fewest changeovers. They more or less stayed with their mode of transportation. And we have respondents who used the car for their most frequent commuting purpose before the outbreak. And they currently used another mode of transportation, like switch to bicycle and walk as their first choices, but also stayed with the car. It was something which was also possible, if you said you can cycle and walk, this more or less everyone can do. And I've heard of many people, who would use their old bike, which they hadn't used for 20 years, and you just pump air in the flat tire and then you start. You don't need to think about a car, which was there maybe for 20 years, and then you want to go by car. That's not going to work. So the bicycle is also something which was there and which was easy to use. And I still do hope that many people will just keep this habit. That is, from the psychological point of view, it's good if something takes long. If there's a restriction which is long or an intervention. You think about starting the gym, for example, it's good if you do it like 28 days, it says, and then it becomes a routine. So maybe it was here the same, if you started to take the bike or to walk more, this also becomes a routine. We also asked the people how they identify themselves, if they are identify themselves as a public transportation user, and if they would stick with with bus and tram, or where they would now where they change to, what they would use now. And we could see, of course, the public transportation was the most affected because people were worried, to get infected there in a very packed bus, and they mostly changed to cycling and walking, but also quite quite some respondents changed to use the car. People who identify themselves as car driver, yeah, I'm a car driver, they mostly maintained and sticked with using the car. Only few of them also started to cycle and to walk. But in general, we can discuss, yeah, like after the pandemic and now being in the second wave, some also already being in the third wave, is it a general like global movement now from public to private? And is this something we want as a city, or is this our vision? So this is, I think, an important topic, and a lot of more research is needed on this area. If the people identifies themselves as a pedestrian, yeah, we say like walk. They also walk more than 1 kilometer. So most of them just stick to walking. Some also change to cycling, and a few of them also use the car in these pandemic times. And last but not least, the identification as a cyclist. So I'm the one, normally my default option is the bicycle. So if this is in your mind, then most of them stick to cycling. A lot of them also started with walking, only some also use the car. We also asked about the reason for using different means of transportation since the outbreak of the coronavirus. And the people give an average of like more or less 2 reasons. Yeah, it was multiplied answers possible. And you can see it in blue, like the maturity and the most chosen motive to reduce the motive is to reduce the risk of infection for myself and also the risk of infecting others. So this was the statement which were agreed by most people, and also, of course, for the ones who used public transportation before. Yeah, so the public transportation users will ask here. We also have like to strengthen your immune system. Yeah, this is also, I think, an important in green and light green. Maybe if people started to walk more, and also as the usual transportation was not available. But we can also think, yeah, like like really at the high point of the virus, yeah, when there's like no social life was anymore, you could still hop on a bus. It was still there. They were like maintaining the service. They maybe had reduced it to like Sunday service, but it was still there. Yeah, this is also something actually to highlight and to appreciate if you're living in an area where this is always a default option. You are never like lost or like forced to be immobile if you're, of course, living in a city. In rural areas, the pictures was a bit different. We had 11% of our respondents actually stated that they were living in rural areas, and of them, only 46% in total, in comparison to 60% in the city, changed their mobility behavior. The walking was similar, like to the city area. Cycling, there was less change in rural areas, and for driving, there was more change. So people who had the car as their main transportation, 45% of them stated to be driving less. So this can have several reasons. Of course, it could be like the mobile working, like home office, for example, but also it can be that there was maybe a shortage in other appointments, that they didn't need to do any business trips, or that they didn't need to commute at all, or that they had lost their jobs, or that maybe they were commuting together with others. So there are many reasons behind this. For public transportation use, there was less change for the rural areas in comparison. For the only 67% said that they changed the use in comparison to 90% in the urban areas. I've also a friend of mine who is in the Netherlands who also approached me, and he did some research also on the topic, and also added a question if the people missed commuting. And I think it's a really nice graphic to see that actually people who normally go by car in their daily commute, they don't miss it. But people who were cycling or walking, they are actually people who do miss commuting a lot. Yeah, this is something also to free your mind or to get yourself in the state of mind to work. And maybe this is now, as if you're on home office all the time, that like maybe in our bubble, or it's not for everyone, I know, but that is something which you don't have anymore, and which also might affect your mental health, and you're trying to maybe start other behaviors. So I've never walked that much before, like in the last 6 months. So I started to have the Corona walks. So every evening we would go like between 5 and 10 kilometers, just exploring our near environment and near surroundings and seeing how nice it is. Yeah, maybe I think, and we still keep it. So I think this is something also you do change behavior, or you start to appreciate something else. Maybe you're forced to it, but it might also have a very good influence. For the future use after Corona, yeah, we said we also looked a bit in the future, and we asked the people after the Corona crisis, yeah, whenever this will be, yeah. This was in the first lockdown, and it felt like it might be the last, but now as I've mentioned, we are already in the second one. After the Corona crisis, I will avoid public transport for a while. And it was actually good to see that the majority said, no, we are not agreeing on this. We actually will go back and use the public transportation. When we posed this question, this particular question, there wasn't the law actually to put a mask in public transportation. And so this is something I think you should keep in mind. And if you now look back, and if you also check with the public transportation companies, they say it's not like before the coronavirus, but it's still like already at a quite high number, and which is, I think, a good sign. Yeah, being the public transportation being the backbone of a reliable and sustainable mobility system within a city. To sum up a bit, yeah, what did the study reveal? Yeah, we have this mobility behavior changes. Yeah, the typical journeys and trips being reduced or completely abandoned. The modal split which changed, yeah, users of public transportation which switched to active mobility or traveling by car. We have the risk of infecting oneself or others, which was the most frequently cited as a reason for the modal shift. And also, maybe to let you know, we had in Germany federal states with lockdown and federal states without lockdown but restrictions. And we actually wanted to know if there was a difference, yeah, and it's kind of more or less the same. There was not really any significant observed behavioral changes between states with like really called lockdown or states with restrictions. And to continue on the next slide. Also in the reaction in terms of the transportation companies, what I already mentioned, there was kind of interesting, yeah, very I think good to see how the public transportation companies reacted and are still reacting. So some of them extended their areas where they are actually working, so to make sure everyone can still stay mobile. We also had discounts in tickets, or we had like federal governments stepping in and taking over the fees for the schoolers tickets, for example, yeah, for monthly tickets. Or we had special activities that if people who have a monthly ticket, like in my area, in the summer months, they could use with their monthly ticket, they could like go all over the whole federal state and instead only the city, as a thank you for sticking with the monthly ticket, for example. And which is, I think, very visible now, we had very good hygiene concepts now for buses, underground trains, and trams, which are cleaned and disinfected all at short intervals. And I think you also know now from science that it's like when you look at studies where people get infected, it's like one of the least reasons it's public transportation. And I think more education and awareness also needs to be spread on this, that it's not mostly not the service the surface being the virus on, but maybe the aerosols. So this is something also to keep in mind. For another summary, and I think also maybe a stimulation for the discussion, or also for your breakout room discussion, I think that this situation could be or can be a huge chance for sustainable mobility. We saw, for example, in many cities that they've installed like overnight these so-called pop-up bike lanes, so like a temporary installation, painting of bike lanes. And we have, like in Paris, a huge movement towards cycling, and the city of 15 minutes. It's also, which is like also in Paris, the policy where they are aiming to. I think this is something also with Corona, which is something more feasible now, and something more possible also. We have to think that Corona will stay a global experience. That's something we can always remember. And this is also a chance that we use this disruptive moment in life as a starting point for a new idea, and that we've experienced it can be different, and maybe try to keep something out of these good experiences. And maybe there are incentives needed, and of course there are like support of the policy needed, but incentives like health insurance, for example, who could give you a reward for using active mobility. We can have sheltered bike stands at your workplace. We have all this like really now forcing to keep the high ratio of mobility, of active mobility in a city, which makes the city more livable for all of us. And we also have the idea of business trips, which now got changed. Like me being with you today, I don't know if I've came to Hamburg maybe to talk for 30 minutes, but with this kind of video conferences, we can all be together within nothing and at no ecological cost in this sense, So the employer are also asked to push for this new development, and also in terms of digitalization, for example, to make this possible, so that a kind of trips can maybe be replaced on the long term. I don't think we need to go back to all of the behavior what we had before. I think also this is kind of a real world laboratory, and I think also we can trial new mobility policies, and it kind of this window of opportunity was open in this sense. We can also rethink on, if you look at a street or at a place, is it actually reflecting the modal split, how much room and space everyone gets who is on this street. I think this kind of car-free movements and ideas can maybe even have a boost because of the last months. So to sum up, what is the next step? We want to know if there is like this sudden and severe interventions in the habituated mobility behavior, if this is lasting, which means of transportation will be used most after the corona crisis, and if people maintain their behavior. For this, we just started, or have it like in the starting, actually a survey for the second lockdown in Germany now, for the middle of the second wave, and also we will have a follow-up survey. We hope this will ever happen for after the corona to know if there were these long-term effects. You will see, that it's still open. It's still also globally so different in this sense. If we communicate with Brazil, as I told you, and there they might still feel like in this first wave, but it's something it will all affect all of us. It will affect also us in the future, and I'm very positive that is something, because we have this shared vision also, and this shared experiences in our mind, that this will be something also which can boost sustainable mobility. With this, I'm really glad. Thank you for your attention. I'm very happy now to start discussion, and I hope also I could maybe stimulate a few thoughts and give you a few numbers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela Franke, for the presentation. In the chat, there were already some questions back to that. I think some of them you already gave an answer to, but one that is not that answered, or not in the detail answered, is the question of is there any data of changes in the average trip length? And is there a higher proportion actually of local trips? Do you have an answer to that?
We actually will put this very question in our, I don't know. What's this? Survey? Nope. Am I still here, or it looks all very different just now?
Yeah, we can still hear you, but we don't see your screen or something like that.
Okay, I stopped the screen sharing, I thought. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what. We actually just put this question in the next survey, which is starting this week. Yeah, to know if this is having an effect now. During Corona, we already know from like other companies like Motion Tech or smartphone users, Google, Apple, they all did studies, yeah, with the data. And they were, of course, doing better studies in this sense because, like, if you only want to know if the people move around, then if you look at the mobile phone data, it just helps you, yeah. So so you could see that the radius was shrinking, yeah, that it was a lot closer to where the people lived. The people didn't go shopping anymore. That all this daily ways were reduced. But we want to also know if there are like changes in attitudes, behaviors. Yeah, we want to know more background. Yeah, so you can, I think, combine the both data really well. And we want to know now in general. Yeah, we want to know in general. Yeah, how many trips per day are you doing? Actually, did this reduce? What we already see, like if you look at the last centuries, the daily trips are more or less the same. Yeah, it's about 3.5 trips per day, which actually stayed the same. Just the distance was longer. Yeah, it got longer and longer and longer. And maybe now we have a turnaround. Yeah, maybe this was like the cap, and we can have also maybe a reduced trip duration and distance.
Thank you very much. There was kind of a connected or question to that, and it is about if there's less people who walk to the city center and more to suburbs or nature. I think you just said, and also you said that you yourself did your Corona walks.
Yep.
So yeah, and it'll be great to see the results of your next.
Yeah. It's actually a longitude study, and so we just started. Yeah, we said okay, we have it now before Corona, during first wave Corona. Now it's going to be second lockdown, and of course we want to have the afterwards a study, and we have like a code, yeah, for the person, so we can actually link the surveys anonymously together. But so we know which person changed how and maybe what helped and in which area they lived. And because I think different area have different interventions and different areas also supported differently, yeah, in terms of public transportation, for example, or Berlin, especially with pop-up bike lanes. So the cycle lanes could be seen, yeah, you got a room and you were like maybe feeling for the first time that you felt safe on a bike. I've spoken to so many people who told me they just started cycling and how nice it is. But now that the cars are all back, they stopped cycling again because they were not feeling safe. So having this in mind, I think as a city planner or as a politician, it should be a signal that there, especially in these very dense areas, that every person helps who switches to a bike permanently in terms of congestion, but also in terms of livability of a city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see if all these will really last. I mean, that's what you just said, and there are like many questions about it. If you think that it'll last and stuff like that. Just for example, in Berlin, you just said it, or even in Munich, those pop-up bike lanes, you just like immediately had the problem that people were, putting lawsuits against them and stuff like that. So some of them already had to be taken down again and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it would be great to see if this really is lasting.
Yeah, with some lasting effects also. And it like in terms of Berlin, these pop-up bike lanes, they were actually in mind. Yeah, they already had planned to actually put cycling lanes there, or to have them also separated from the from the motorized transport. This was just something to accelerate, this movement, and I think it shouldn't be taken back in this sense because it showed so many positive side effects.
Okay, then one last question. Since home office is becoming more and more common, or became more and more common, at least in Germany, are there any hints towards the effects and perspective of home office?
We actually asked people if they would think that they would stay in home office or that they would also continue having video conferences after the coronavirus. Yeah, we are now still like within a bit. Yeah, it's still like, I think we still never got back like before corona behavior, maybe more or less most of us. Yeah, but we still have this corona feeling still going on. For the people with the video conferences and the home office, it's actually had a very positive resonance. Yeah, like I think 2/3 of the people said, yeah, they can think of like actually keeping some of these new habits which they started now. It's not going back to like maybe zero home office. And we also see now companies stepping in and seeing the economic advantage of this, of having less office space, like especially like, for example, in Hamburg, where office space is so expensive. So the idea of having less offices per person is actually also something the companies like. And so it could trigger this movement. For the home office, in general, it's really only a small ratio of the population. It feels like everyone is doing home office, talking about in this scientific community. Honestly, it's only, I think, about 17% or so. Yeah, it's kind of a very small number. Don't mix it, because also in this, when we do the surveys, of course, we know that the respondents of normal surveys like this are more or less more educated than the average person. So we always have to keep this in mind when we interpret data, and we really try to reach a lot of people, or try to have it in a way spread to reach other people also as well, to have like a mix which is representative to the population.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. It just came in another interesting question. And you already said there are differences between big cities and smaller cities. So in which sense, or how can we also accelerate rural areas or small and perhaps even medium-sized cities? Is there any possibility?
Yeah, I think this is me being living in an urban area. I think things all my life, it's really something. It's always for me a new experience, being in a rural area. And I think we have to open up also as a normal urban planner to think about other people as well and to include them. And for each trip, I think there's a perfect mode of transportation, And it can be that in these rural areas, this can be the car, if this is the only way people can maybe connect to a park and ride station and then continue. I think what helps accelerate really this movement at the rural areas is the e-bike. The pedelec e-bike. Now longer distances are possible and feasible to cycle. And for this, infrastructure needs to come in. And we need to say, okay, can we have these rural roads? If there's 100 kilometers per hour, the normal speed limit in Germany, this is not feasible as a cyclist, to go next to this, for example. So there needs to be like separated cycling lane. I saw many of them in Bavaria, for example. I think they already pushed for this, that it's possible to cycle longer distances. And if we look for the Netherlands, this is not helping us much because it's such a highly dense country. I think every country and every area needs to come up also with own solutions for this. We also do research, for example, for fully automated public transportation buses. These little buses with 6 people for elderly having their daily trips to the supermarket or to the market and back to like a housing area. So I think there's a multi-measure approach again. Space in between, and in this sense, definitely. Also to have these hubs like on outside of a city where you actually have the feeder transport from the side, and then you have like an public transportation going to the main areas.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So if there are no new questions, I think we should break with the Q&A session at this moment. Before we go to the breakout rooms, we already had a quiz prepared, which should start like any minute. And we'd like you to answer this quiz or the quiz questions, and then we give a really short conclusion to that. And then we'll break up into 3 breakout rooms. Myself, Tero Hattela, and Heike Bunte will be the moderators of these groups. And then we hopefully have a fruitful discussion further on. Thank you. So 20 seconds for the last ones to do the quiz, and we'll share the results.
Sorry, Dennis, I just would like to ask, is there some way to change your name so that you could put the city where you come from to the end of your name?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's possible while you are in the system anymore. I think you should have, I mean, yeah. If you have done it before, like before you joined the meeting, it was possible, but I don't think you can do it. Let's try this. No. No, I think it's not. I'm sorry. Can you all see the results on the, for me, it's the right-hand side of the screen?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So it's not that clear actually. For the first question, most of the people answered that it's healthy and that also they realized walking and cycling, yeah, is fun and is a good way and probably even the best way to get around the city. For the second question, really most of the people say that women in this age so the answer with C. So women in this age group stayed in general more at home. So this typical career and household and kids, what it was back in that days. For the third questions, really most of the people say that it'll be up to 3 years until public transport is at the same level it was before the Corona crisis. And for question 4, you see here it's like a little split up, and the best ways to get to the point, or the methods public transport providers should use to encourage people to use it again is to do active campaigns for public transport, as well as to use more buses, just to provide more space within the buses, trams, stuff like that. And for the last question, which was which trial of policies towards positive developments of active mobility will be successful, most of the people said that it's most useful to set up more pop-up bike lanes, which I really in favor of as well in the upcoming 5 years, so that more people can use their bike in a safe way. Even. I think these results, as well as 2 questions, we'll take to the breakout rooms. The questions are: how has mobility in your city changed due to Corona, and what was your response? And the second question is: mobility and Corona, censorship or chance? I think Angela Franco already gave a clear answer to that, but nevertheless, I think we can discuss about that, and I hope for fruitful discussions. we are now breaking up into those 3 rooms. So for those who will be in my room, I'll see you there in a quick minute. So is everybody back there again? I think Heike was. She is. Okay, perfect. All right. So I'm really curious what was the discussion in all the other rooms about. Probably Heike, you could also start about it.
Yes. Can you hear me? Good. Actually, as you all know, during conferences, the coffee breaks are really the best. And to be honest, in our group, we were just 3. So we had a wonderful but very, very fruitful coffee break on the so-called second pillar of public transport, which is bike sharing. We really discussed the whole time this issue. Nevertheless, what is important to mention about how mobility changed in cities? Actually, one important point was really that micromobility also added a change or contributed to the change of mobility behavior, especially in the case of Turku or Finland. So mobility behavior overall, of course, changed in certain aspects, and especially in terms of public transport. We focused on bike sharing because one of our group members, Pietro, originally from Italy, Turin, now in Leipzig, is working for Nextbike, a huge mega sharing bike system in many cities. And this is why we focused already on that topic, because as you probably all have seen from your cities, cycling increased a lot. But bike sharing systems were also forced to stop in some cities due to hygienic aspects, because you have to touch the handlebar and everything. So also the bike providers and the companies has to react, and they had to develop working hygienic rules to overcome and to make it possible that this system will contribute to mobility. Actually, what we found out is that especially in medium-sized cities, for example, in Germany, this would be Augsburg and Leverkusen, something like that, the numbers tripled, which of course is positive and gives a push, but usually these people use public transport. And this is also why the transport providers helped to find solution and develop systems that people can use it. And for example, special offers were made to people to use this bike sharing systems. It is overall cheaper than public transport, and makes cycling all year round also possible, even in the winter time. Last but not least, cycling or bike sharing systems contribute much more to the individual part of your mobility than public transport, of course. It's still hard to integrate this aspect into apps and everything. So mobility as a service is still a challenge if we look at it as a whole, and if we would contribute to the last mile, whether it's individual or whether it's just to bring you in between areas and spaces and living in cities, sorry. We know that roughly 80% of the cities in Europe are middle-sized cities. So altogether, we came up that there is still a huge potential for the bike sharing system. So in order to sum up, we can say, yes, on some aspects, Corona is really a chance for public bike sharing, but there is a lot to develop additionally, especially in terms of digitalization and especially in terms of making it clear that it contributes a lot to active mobility, even if it's just the last mile. That's it so far. Thank you very much. And if Pietro and Atam have more things to add, I would give them shortly the floor. Thank you.
Perfectly summarized. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I agree as well. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. So, Tero, you would go next.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we had also very vivid discussion. We have people from 6 different cities there, and we also realized that this mobility has changed partly the same way and partly different ways. And also what came up was that actually during the first wave and during the second wave, the situation is slightly different because people may have changed their behavior, but also because of whether it's summer when you can cycle, for example, or whether it's the winter. And actually, we don't currently even know how the second forthcoming or the uptaking wave will have an effect on us. However, so mostly this is mostly holds for the springtime and the summertime, and then somewhat also to the early autumn. First of all, the use of public transportation has decreased significantly, but mostly the number of public transportation was not reduced to ensure the social distancing. However, also in some places, cities had to reduce the number of public transportation available. The number of cycling did not increase that much. It has increased somewhat, but also depending on which area of the city it has happened. For example, in the city.
Tero, we can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you again.
Okay, so from when on did you was the connection lost? But okay, say that cycling has had some changes, but not that much on the whole. And now it's interesting to see that when the situation is getting different again, and if this second wave is coming, because the number of and use of private cars has increased, and there's also a danger that now that people get used to again going back to private cars, how to lure them back, especially if there are some other ways, for example, working at home and other that may change the behavior of people and their lifestyle. So how to make people come back to the public transportation also after this COVID situation. But however, on the whole, the thing is that people still think that although it may be very in the short run, it may have difficulties and it may take some 2-3 years until the public transportation will recover. After that, it's very likely that the changes will go towards more and more better ways and towards having more of these active modes and public transportation. I think that summarizes mostly what we discussed. Others would like to say something or add something, please.
Okay, that doesn't seem to be the case. So thank you very much, Tero. So for our last group, we also had a good discussion. We had participants from the city of Hamburg, Espoo, and even from Malaysia. So that was really, really good to hear. Actually, we more detailed on the topic of public transportation, because first of all, everybody was kind of surprised that the time of public transport recovery and even the answers we gave are that far away. So everybody was a little surprised that it, or at least in Germany, I think that's what these numbers were about. Most of the public transport systems think that it's up to 3 years until they are back at the same level they are now. And everybody thinks that Corona is a chance for that. So the whole system can be redesigned, kind of. But of course, it also is a big trouble for it, because at least in Germany, but I think it's all over the world, that public transport is always in financial trouble. And with those lower taxes incoming for the cities and stuff like that, it's not getting better. So it's really a huge problem how to finance these systems in the future. And if you want to redesign it and even give more opportunities in public transport, this isn't becoming any easier. But more than that, and besides that, it's really a chance for the whole system, like the whole system of mobility. You, Heike, also said it, like mobility as a service, but also like last mile mobility is still a big problem, and it shows that right now. That was also topic of our discussions. For Malaysia, I can say that they are thinking about transferring motorcycle lanes, which they actually are. I actually didn't know, but they are thinking about not having them as motorcycle lanes anymore, but transferring them to bike lanes. So it's kind of what some cities in Germany did with those pop-up bike lanes, to give more space to active mobility. And what is a big problem? What is a big problem actually, and what's should be an aim, and which has to be handled, is that companies actually right now, not even in Finland, I guess, but all in Germany as well, that companies actually are actively saying that people should come by car in order to be safe. And that's a really big problem, because not even that they are driving their car right now, but probably they even see, oh, okay, it's such a good system and everything's working that well, that they will just stick to it. So we really have to get up with plans to get people back out of their cars and into public transport, on the bike, and to walk. I think if there's anything else I did miss, please feel free to add that. If that is not the case, the only thing left for me is a very, very big thanks. It was a great session. I really had great insights. And I once again give the stage to Tero and Heike. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much for all the participants. I think it's very nice that we have you here, and I truly love this Interact project, because this gives us people from with very similar problems from different cities to share the knowledge and ideas between each other. And as we heard, there have been very similar solutions, and we learned also during the discussions in the breakout room what has been done elsewhere and what could be done otherwise. And also we have had these great presentations. So very nice that also the participants are active and taking this further. So On behalf of the HUPMOBILE project, I would like to say thank you to all of you today, and also those of you who were yesterday, of these 2 wonderful days. And of course, I also want to thank you, Dennis, and from the Plan Associated, and also Heike and the City of Hamburg, Borough of Altona, for all the arrangement and these 2 nice webinars we have had.
Thank you, Tero, for this really kind words. Also, on behalf of the Borough of Altona and all my colleagues here in the background, thank you so much for participating and for this kind of short visit here to Hamburg. I hope we can meet next time face to face, wherever, because I think even with all the technology, nevertheless, it would be great to meet face to face. Altogether, I also would like really to thank Manfred Neun for the contribution on the first day of Fusion Mobility, and especially also for today, Angela. I hope with our, discussion, we gave you some input, and hopefully we could also contribute or maybe influence a little bit your long-term survey. And of course, I'm really looking forward to it, to this kind of research, because I think we have to face huge challenges, and also here in Hamburg, and also especially in Altona. Traffic and mobility is still important. We have huge challenges in front of us, but also thank you very much for this fruitful discussion today. I also got very interesting new insights, and I hope this will also contribute to our HUPMOBILE project. So thank you for today. And as Tero already said, to Robin in the technical background of Planer Sozietät, and Dennis for guiding us through this session today also. Thanks a lot. And enjoy the rest of the day and the weekend. Thanks. Bye.